Hey everyone, it's Blake, and welcome in to episode number 33 of our WWE 2021 save in TEW 2020. This is SummerSlam 2021. We finally made it, and my goodness, we got a lot to get to on this show. There is a lot to discuss, and I'll go ahead and say up front, we'll probably stick to most of the fallout from this show after this episode. We'll get into that on our usual State of WWE episode we do after each pay-per-view. We'll talk a little bit more about the fallout. That may be actually a little bit of a longer episode than some of the others have been, just to kind of dive into storyline stuff, popularity, all that kind of, different things like that. So I just want to say that up front. I'm going to try to, that way this episode is not an hour or something, because I could really dive into a lot of different stuff about why we did things the way we did on some of this, and I know there's going to be some discussion about some of the things, some of the big stuff we got happening on the show coming out of it, and that's good. But we may talk a little bit more about that on the next episode. So just want to point that out up front. We're still going to discuss some of it in this one in terms of just the fallout of some of these storylines, maybe why I booked them the way I did, all this other stuff. But we'll get into it in even more detail. That's the best way to put it on the next episode. So we have got a lot to get to here. So let's go ahead and jump right in to the pre-show. I said on the go-home episode of Smackdown, I was deciding whether to put this on the pre-show. Actually, I may have said that on the preview episode. And ultimately, it's what I decided to do. I will say it took me quite a while to book this show because time. It was all about timing and trying to figure out how to put all of this into an amount of time that wasn't going to kind of put me over that threshold in the game where you start to burn out the crowd and all that. I think it's, like 3.5 hours, somewhere in there. Or I'm not even sure what the number is, because each range you kind of have for your events or whatever, you actually get longer than it's set at and all that stuff. You guys know how that works as you play the game. But we wanted to make sure we didn't burn out the crowd. That was the big focus of the show, because I knew once we got to our big angles later in the show, I did not want to, and matches and all that stuff, I did not want to really have people burned out to where it just knocked those ratings. So that was a big focus here. And so we had to take some time off somewhere. We put this on the pre-show, and yes, as you've probably already seen by now, we do have new WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, and actually making this shorter works out better, because this was not really ever planned to be more than like a 5-minute match, because we wanted to play into the storyline of this dominant duo that had been formed between Shayna and Sonya, and that's what we did here. So it goes 304, and we do have new Women's Tag Team Champions. We see Tamina off her game, but a 47, it is what it is. I'm fine with that, just because, hey, none of these women are over that much, but of everyone, I think these two have actually, their popularity's gone up pretty decently just with what I've done with them. It's, all their single stuff and everything. So I think this is fine, and this is going to be it, actually, for the pre-show. We're going to have a lot of morale issues to deal with after this show. That's going to be actually a pretty fun part of our State of WWE episode, I'm sure, because there are going to be a lot of unhappy people that were not on this show. There's a ton of them that we didn't use, but again, we just wanted to make everything compact. This is our second biggest show of the year, and we wanted to keep everything very focused and have a reason for putting people on the show, and that's what we're doing here. So let's get into the main card, which starts with an angle. And that is Steve Austin backstage with Edge, Rey Mysterio, and Cesaro. And good stuff here across the board. Look at this. This is great. 70 overall. Austin lets these three know that leading into the Raw Money in the Bank match, which is going to open up the show, he lets them know that he has security on basically guard here, ready and watching for Randy Orton, who these three have been a big focus of what we've seen, or seemingly with Orton over the last little while. And so Austin lets them know, hey, I've got it covered. You guys have the best match you can. Focus on the match. We're watching for Orton and all that. Yes, if you want to kind of pick it apart, we could have put Ricochet here, but let's be honest. We're not putting Ricochet in any of this stuff, especially not with Austin, who hates him. So that's why we didn't put Ricochet backstage here with them. So Austin kind of sending the message, look, we're on guard for Orton. We know in the last Raw, he said everything will change on this episode or at SummerSlam, and that was his message. So Austin is taking the precautions to make sure that Orton does not get involved here. So that is the setup, and let's go into the Raw Money in the Bank match, which is won by Edge. Edge, once again, Mr. Money in the Bank. I'm sure a lot of you probably could have predicted that based on the build, but it is Edge getting the win here and having the Money in the Bank briefcase once again. Gets a 57. We're going to blame that on the one and only Ricochet, as we do with everything in this game, although he's still benefiting from having that hot new move. Apparently, it is losing because he loses this one here, and as you'll see as well in this match, Mustafa Ali comes in and attacks Cesaro, so we have basically somehow ran an entire angle with these two only on pay-per-view. So since they're on different brands, we have had all 3 pay-per-views. They have had some sort of interaction that has led to the development of their angle, and we have that again here. Ali was upset about not having a match. He said he was going to show up at SummerSlam, make his presence felt. He does that here by attacking Cesaro, who attacked him at Great American Bash. So it's been quite fun to really have very few interactions between these two, but it's all come on the 3 pay-per-views. So that's an interesting dynamic there. And as you will see very soon, there is a payoff to that. We're not doing that just for no reason, and you will find out the payoff to that very, very quickly. But it is Edge winning, and yeah, I mean, not a bad match here, but I think it's Ricochet. I think he dragged some of it down. I mean, Montez Ford's not that over either, but everyone else pretty good over. Of course, Edge is the most over of the group, but Edge winning, and he is Mr. Money in the Bank. Let's see. Is there anything with Randy Orton? No, there's not. We go straight to the next match, which is Keith Lee defeating Apollo Crews in 6:18 to win the Intercontinental Championship, 63 overall here. Good stuff from Keith Lee and Apollo Crews. Actually not bad. I mean, again, you can see kind of the time on some of this. 6:18 is not very long, but it does play into Keith Lee's been dominant since he came back several weeks ago. Crews on short notice, didn't know who he's going to be facing. Foley puts him in this match, and it's Keith Lee coming back and just making an impact, winning the Intercontinental Championship. So we got a new champ in the IC ranks, and well, I'm sure the one and only Apollo Crews will have something to say about that. Something tells me he will not be very happy about the outcome in this one, but we got a new champ, and I'm fine with this. 63 overall, not too bad for these two here. And then to the match that I don't want to say I was dreading this match the most, but my biggest hope for this match was that no one get injured. That was the goal here. 47 overall, a just not great match, and you can see I kept this to 2 minutes. I think I booked it at 3 minutes. So it goes 2:37. Kevin Owens retains against Goldberg, and he is still the United States champion. No chemistry at all. I am in no way shocked by that. I actually went in thinking that was probably going to be the case with these two. And I'll go ahead and tell you, the reason I put this together, and it's probably, you guys could probably figure it out, but the reason I put this together was I'm looking down the roster and I'm thinking, all right, Goldberg is sitting there doing nothing, but he's still one of the most over people on the roster. How can we get that popularity transferred to someone else for a little while? And that's why we decided to make all the connections, Goldberg with the U.S. title. These two have some history, the open challenge, all that stuff. It just made sense to have Kevin Owens defeat Goldberg, try to give Owens even more of a popularity bump. That's why we did this, knowing that it was not going to be a very good match. I was honestly thinking anything above a 50 would be considered, a 5-star classic between these two. So a 47, it is what it is. I'm okay with that. But really the whole goal here, and just to, again, kind of peel back the curtain a bit, was to get as much popularity as I could, transfer it here to here. And that was kind of the goal here. So I'm very curious, and we'll talk about it on the State of WWE episode, what kind of popularity bump maybe Owens gets coming out of this. But that was the reason we did this. I know from the beginning, you looked at it on paper and you're probably like, wow, this is not going to be a good match. It wasn't, but we tried to keep it as short as possible. And this was also one where, as I started looking down the card, and I'm thinking, all right, we want to avoid this burning out the crowd. We don't want to go too far over that time, threshold of burning people out. Where can we cut off some time? So I cut this down to 3 minutes. And because, by the way, too, anything I try to do over 5 minutes, I think initially I may have set it at like 6 minutes or something. I got that little notification like, or it gives you like, hey, your senses tell you that booking Goldberg in a match of this length is not going to be a good idea. So we just kept cutting time from this one, and I'm okay with that. So hopefully it achieves its purpose with Owens getting a popularity boost. We'll see how that turns out once we look at the State of WWE episode. But Owens still the champion here. And then we've got a new Raw Women's Champion, and it is Bayley getting the win in a 68 match. Fine, I'm fine with that. I think that's okay. And look, they're all pretty even on their in-ring performance. Sasha off her game, so maybe we could have got that up to a 70 a little bit there. We do get the crowd hotter. That's good. But the most noteworthy thing coming out of this, you need to pay attention to, Bayley pins Sasha Banks. And we have sort of the way things play out here where it's kind of the trope we've seen before where Io Shirai kind of gets out of the mix here, and then it's Bayley and Sasha. Bayley decides she's going to be the one to turn on Sasha, and Bayley to belly does the trick. She pins Sasha to win the title. So we will have a pretty quick follow-up to this. I will throw that tease in. There will be a bit of a next step in this feud here. I don't call it a feud, but just the next development in the Raw Women's Championship will play out very quickly, as you'll see in future episodes. But for now, we got a new champ. It's Bayley, and so we made the best of a situation that, as we talked about when Rhea Ripley suffered the torn Achilles, we were thinking, oh boy, what are we going to do with this Raw Women's division? We tried to make the best of it here, and I think it turned out pretty well. 68 overall, I'm fine with it. So Bayley's the champ. And speaking of that, we go into more new champions, as it's the New Day winning the WWE Tag Team Championships from the Usos, 63. Not bad here. We get a lot of green. We always get it with this group because of their tag team bonuses and all that. We're used to that. But the first, 2-on-2 match we've had, not having this group into like multi-man matches and, triple threat matches, all that kind of stuff. And it gets a 63. We're okay with that. That's kind of about the range you would expect based on their popularity. So, great heat, good wrestling. That's all we can ask for. But it is the New Day getting the win over the Usos. So we've got new champs here. And we'll see what that leads to. As you can see, the in-ring performance, I mean, this is as close as it gets. Pretty much everyone right near each other. So this is, it's kind of what you expect from these four right here. And we will continue to develop the storyline here, both between these four and the WWE Tag Team titles coming up. But we have new champions. Once again, a lot of new champs on this show thus far. We'll see if that trend continues. And it does, because we have a new WWE champion. We were trying to figure out where do we put this in the show, but there's a reason, as you'll see, why we put it where we put it. 80 overall, with Daniel Bryan getting the win, becoming the WWE champion. That's the longest match on the show, and it's going to be longer than the main event between Reigns and Cena. You'll see that. But really, I mean, when I booked this from the very beginning, I knew, I was like, all right, we need our Raw, or we need our WWE Championship match for SummerSlam. This made the most sense. You knew you were going to get a match that delivered. I said before, I think in the preview, I was like, I think this one should hit 80 or above. It hits 80. All I can ask for. That's great. Just a good match. I mean, this is what I've expected from this group. I just really thought that, it was going to be something that worked out well for all parties involved, and it did. And, we got a new champion. But Randy Orton is here. And Daniel Bryan in the ring celebrating his victory. Randy Orton runs in and attacks. I worded things the way I worded it earlier for a reason. Austin had security on guard for one match, but apparently he didn't have the security on guard for this one, as it's Orton coming in, attacking Daniel Bryan, beating him down to the mat. Bryan looks good here, but obviously not too good because he just got beat down after winning the WWE Championship. And then, after the beatdown, which includes the RKO and the punt, Randy Orton lifts his head up, turns it towards the aisleway, and then Edge's music hits. Edge has the Money in the Bank briefcase, 86 overall. Fantastic. Edge makes his way down the ramp with the briefcase in hand. The announcers are losing their mind. They're not really sure what's going on. Edge walks in, cashes in the Money in the Bank briefcase on Daniel Bryan, and Edge is the WWE champion. Just like that. Everyone, no idea what's going on. Everyone is buzzing. They don't know what to think. They just saw Edge win the Money in the Bank. Daniel Bryan just won the WWE Championship. And now that quickly, Edge is the WWE Champion. And for those who have not put it together just yet, Edge and Randy Orton embrace in the ring. 79 overall. Randy Orton invents a new catchphrase in the process. And everyone comes out of this looking excellent. And folks, I know right now, unless you kind of followed all the little breadcrumbs along the way, it's probably not making a whole lot of sense, but this is something we will get into in the State of WWE episode. If you go back through, and this is really a storyline, and I've said this for a reason on some of the episodes recently, is I'm like, you really need to go back to the start and really try to, follow the storylines, because if you just jump in, you're not going to get the full effect of some of this. I will tell you from the very start of this save, which we'll get into on the State of WWE. I'm not going to get too much into it now, but the seeds were planted for this moment right here from the very start, and I made sure to calculate and say things in the most precise way possible, whereas to kind of avoid misstepping anywhere along the way. So if you go back and maybe, before we do the State of WWE, if you have some time on your hands, you want to do that, you want to be like, wait a minute, I want to see why this makes sense and why this is the way things turned out, I would say you probably have to go all the way back to the beginning. But we will at least try to go through step by step, and I will try to show you where, I put everything together hoping that it would turn out this way. And I think some people may have predicted this going into it. I'm not sure. But some people, if you didn't, I would say I did. Like I was almost trying to amuse myself at times, which I was just like, all right, how can I figure out how to drop in another clue that this could be something that's going to happen along the way? And with the way we built it up, it was very strategic. I'm personally happy with the way things played out. Because I think that, it was something that from the very first Raw, we had this planned. I mean, it was right before I even started the save. Like, this was one of the go-to storylines I wanted to go to, and I think we did pretty well along the way, kind of avoiding anything that's going to conflict with what's actually going to happen after SummerSlam. I will say that, too. Like, the follow-up's going to be important to this whole story. But for now, I will say that if you're surprised, I'm going to try to make sense of it for you with why we did this and why it turned out the way it did. But we put this here in the middle of the show because, as you would expect, we still got a lot more to get to. But I didn't want to put this right next to the main event for a reason, just because I knew we had a lot to cover here, a lot of ground. And so there you have it. I'm sure there will be some discussion on this, and we will get into it more for those who think maybe that it's kind of one of those out-of-nowhere swerves that doesn't necessarily have any basis to it. I promise I will try to put everything together to make it make sense. But there were some clues I dropped along the way that perhaps some people picked up on. But that's the fun of this. I like doing these kind of storylines that are kind of fun once they pay off. And I've really been waiting on this one. Like, that's one of the reasons why I've been kind of fueling up all this, was to get to this particular segment here with Edge cashing in Money in the Bank, defeating Daniel Bryan, and now these two embrace. What the hell is going on with Edge and Randy Orton? We're not going to find out tonight. And then it's Seth Rollins. I don't know how you follow that, but Seth Rollins does. 82 overall. Seth Rollins cutting a promo. He actually has to mention in the promo that he has no idea what just happened out there. But Rollins says his focus is on winning the Money in the Bank himself. Edge has already proven what you can do when you win Money in the Bank. You can be the champion at any time, and that is what Seth Rollins is going to do tonight. And it's exactly what Seth Rollins does. He comes out and defeats Damian Priest, Jeff Hardy, Shinsuke Nakamura, Sami Zayn, and our mystery entrant, Samoa Joe, who has now, been officially signed to SmackDown. So Samoa Joe is on SmackDown. This was Mick Foley's mystery, signing and all this. So Samoa Joe joining the Smackdown brand. That's going to give us a big boost, I think. We got some fun stuff planned for Joe. But went back and forth on some different people who to kind of fill the mystery role. And ultimately, there were a couple people in NXT I thought about. There was one person outside of WWE I thought about. But we decided to go with Joe. I just think that, he's got star power. He's got all the stuff we need just to keep, putting out good ratings, putting out good shows. So we go with Joe here, but it's not Joe winning, as Seth Rollins retrieves the briefcase. And Seth Rollins, despite being off his game, 69 overall, nice rating. And hey, I don't like that Samoa Joe gets the Samoa submission machine. It's only an adequate gimmick. Come on, that's a great gimmick for Samoa Joe. But Seth Rollins did what he said he was going to do. He is Mr. Money in the Bank again on the SmackDown side, and we have got a lot to come on that front. But Seth Rollins wins, and who knows, maybe we'll see Seth Rollins later on in the show. And then we go to our SmackDown Women's Championship match, where it is Bianca Belair defeating Charlotte Flair to retain her title and actually get her title back physically from Charlotte Flair. 72 overall, really not. I mean, this is good stuff here. I'm fine with this too. I think because we knew going in Charlotte was going to get penalized due to the extremely poor form, but they still put on a really good match here, and we get an interesting note with Bianca having a strong connection with a young female demographic who really liked her winning. So, hey, we're pushing Bianca to the moon here, and the young female demographic, all for it. So this was another one. We go back talking about storylines that just really started from the beginning of this save. This is one, as we mentioned on the preview episode, like this started from first episode of SmackDown, and we really built it up, and we get the payoff here with the 72 match. Perfectly fine with that, and but it's Bianca on the winning side of things as she retains her championship, gets her championship back, and so we will see what's next for both parties here moving forward. But Bianca Belair still your SmackDown Women's Champion. And then Big E cuts a promo hyping his match he's about to have with AJ Styles. This is our big grudge match on the show between these two. Big E with the usual Big E promo. He's ready to show that AJ Styles wanting to show he still got it. Well, it's all about Big E proving that he is WWE now. It's his time, and it's time for AJ Styles to step aside. And let's see if that's what happens. And it is, because Big E gets the win over AJ Styles. This one goes 14-24. The big ending does it. 75. Good stuff here from these two. This was another one, put it together. I'm like, this is going to deliver. Like, this is one that it belongs on a SummerSlam type card. And it does. I mean, it delivers here. In-ring performance, Big E 71, better than AJ here. I think with AJ, we do have the declining physical ability is still something we're dealing with here with him. Yeah, for AJ. And, it's kind of one of those things where even with that, AJ's still really good. And so I don't really ever worry about that. I don't think about that even when the save started. We knew that, but not really concerned about it because we know he can still deliver good matches. But great stuff here as Big E gets the win. And I think, talking about popularity, Big E's popularity is rising. And, we'll see what's next for both of these two. But it's Big E coming out on top in this one. And then Drew McIntyre is tired of all these mind games. He's tired of everything with Bray Wyatt. No more. He's done with the mind games. He's done with everything with Bray Wyatt, playing all the games he's been doing. He's ready to fight because that's what Drew McIntyre does. So this gets 70. That leads us into our match here, which is going to serve as technically our semi-main event here. And let's see what we get. 77. So really good stuff here from these two. It is Bray Wyatt getting the win over Drew McIntyre, 12-13. The Sister Abigail does it. And yeah, this is kind of one of those things where we've really gone back and forth with Bray here. We haven't really done a whole lot with Bray to make it seem like he's anything other than kind of set at the foundation of being a face, which is what he was listed at when we started this save. Even though he's been feuding with Drew McIntyre, we haven't really... Bray has not shown any aggression towards Drew. That's kind of been one of the things that I wanted to kind of plan in all this, because the big part was, we know, like, Drew was the one that attacked him at Great American Bash, and that was kind of the point for Bray Wyatt, is that he wanted to show that he was not going to be the aggressor here. He was not out to do any of this, but it finally got to the point where he had to have this match. And now, as we see here, we've kind of been hinting at it for a while. And this is where you get your very official, I guess, heel turn now for Bray Wyatt. McIntyre is in the ring, and I guess, it says it's celebrating, but I think this is one of those where you just pick the angle that's like a beatdown after the match. Obviously he's not celebrating a loss, but we know how this works. Sometimes you just pick an angle and doesn't necessarily connect with that. But Bray Wyatt just starts beating down Drew McIntyre unmercifully, and a 78 overall here. And obviously that's going to lead us to officially, we've had this basically for 8 segments he's been involved in. We're going to do the heel turn. It's a complete success, no surprise. So we make it official there, even though I know it kind of teetered on that beforehand. But the reason why we kind of held off on the physical interaction was because we wanted to sort of, see if we can pull that heel turn off here at SummerSlam officially with this. So the dark side of Bray Wyatt seemingly is here. And as we know, probably not going to mean good things for the rest of the Smackdown roster. John Cena cutting a promo. It's almost main event time. Promo from Cena hyping up the match with Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. 87 overall. Great stuff from Cena. And Cena says he's going to make history. He's going to win that championship, break the record. This is it for him. He wants this opportunity, and he is going to finally put an end to all this stuff with Roman Reigns. And he's done with Reigns, going around attacking people, all this other stuff. Cena's come back to save WWE, and that's exactly what he's going to do. And so, let's get to it. The main event. Roman Reigns defending the Universal Championship against John Cena. And it is Roman Reigns successfully defending the Universal title. 14:48. He chokes out John Cena. And a 79 overall. Not bad. Almost hit that 80 mark we were expecting with this one. But it's fine. I'm okay with it. Again, would have liked it to be better given it's these two in particular. If we look at the dirt sheet, Reigns has he's got everything right now. Like, Reigns has just got all this stuff. He has just been great. Like, he's been fantastic. And if we look at some of the stuff here, it's really the Cena stuff, with the declining physical ability, all that. We set everything up as well as I thought we could to get the highest rating possible. And Roman Reigns just does it again. Another great match from Reigns. Gets the win over John Cena. And so Reigns, number 14, his defense here of the Universal Championship. But there is more to come on SummerSlam. Because after the match, a great segment here, 85. Reigns, a real star. Of course he is. Roman Reigns, Mick Foley, of course, the special guest referee. We added that in on the Go Home episode of SmackDown. Foley said he was going to keep order, and seemingly he did that during the match, even though he did have to count the 3. Or actually didn't. He didn't have to count the 3, right? Because he got the choke out. So Foley didn't have to count it, and that was actually the point. Was we have this here, but Reigns is not ready yet to let Mick Foley escape, because after all this time, from the very start, Roman Reigns has asked, he has demanded one thing, and he has said from the very beginning, once Mick Foley was named the SmackDown general manager, he wants him. This mysterious him character. Roman Reigns has been asking for him. Foley has not delivered him. So, Cena's down and out on the outside. Reigns is in the ring. Foley raises his hand. And then Roman Reigns grabs Mick Foley. And we get Paul Heyman walking in, handing the microphone to Roman Reigns, who throws Foley to the ground and starts yelling at him and says that this is all he's asked for. And he told Foley there would be consequences. For some point, he's seen some of those consequences with the McMahons, but now it's time for Foley to get those consequences he's been promising. And just as Roman Reigns goes to take out Mick Foley, we hear in the microphone Foley say, "He's here." And then Roman Reigns looks up to the aisle with a confused face and sees The Rock. The Rock's music hits. No surprise here. This was exactly what I thought it was going to be. And it's The Rock who makes his way down as Roman Reigns turns loose of Foley. Foley rolls out of the ring. The crowd, of course, going insane here. Rock walks down to the ring, up the steps, through the ropes, and in back-to-back 100 segments, this is what we were going for. This is what I was hoping it would be. The Rock and Roman Reigns go face-to-face in the middle of the ring. We have the stare down. Everything delivered here just how I thought it would, knowing that it was going to be The Rock and knowing that we were going to get Rock interacting with Reigns. 2 back-to-back 100 segments to end the show. This was the goal, guys, from the very, this was the goal. I was like, all right, we've got to deliver on this, and this is one that did not disappoint in any way, shape, or form as The Rock goes face-to-face with Roman Reigns, and as we know, after what Mick Foley said, we have now figured out the mystery of this whole him situation. Foley said he's here. Well, is it The Rock? Is it The Rock? I think you know. But we'll see what happens on SmackDown to go from there. But The Rock is back. And yes, I think some people also may have mentioned this as a possibility. But The Rock and Roman Reigns face-to-face in the middle of the ring. And that is how we wrap up SummerSlam, which I don't know exactly what we're going to get. 83. So that's going to actually tie us, I think, for our best show ever on this save. I could be wrong. We may have did an 84 somewhere. Did we do that recently? I'm not sure. But an 83 overall. We gained popularity in 25 regions. I mean, this was just, it was kind of a tale of two halves of the show here, which is kind of what I wanted. I wanted this back half of the show to be as stacked as possible, building up to this final segment. And so that's the kind of the reason why we did what we did there. Certainly, everything from Daniel Bryan winning the title forward, of course, with the cash in from Edge, all of this stuff. I mean, everything sort of delivered the way we wanted it. I mean, if you just look down the rest of the card, I mean, really, since that match, and then we go all the way down here, everything, even almost the ladder match gets a really good rating. But this was all built, as we know, around the big title matches. And we had some of these singles matches with Big E and AJ, which delivered at a 75. Bray and Drew at 77. That's kind of what this whole show was built around. And so everything kind of delivered the way that I wanted it to be. And, pretty fantastic stuff, I've got to say. I'm very pleased with how things turned out here. Hopefully you are as well. A great show. And let's give some speeches before, I guess, we wrap up here, and we'll see. We've got to, as always. I mean, we got to give Roman Reigns, right? I mean, he's just, come on. We got to do this every show. Every show he's on, every pay-per-view, it's got to be Roman Reigns. And then let's see who we can go with here. I think we need to give, who else had pretty great performances here? Let's give our guy, Big E, some performance, great performance as well. Should we give Goldberg? Should we just yell at this guy for everything he did with this whole match here? Maybe that's the other person we give it to. Kevin Owens. Let's give that here to Kevin Owens. A little encouragement after what happened with the Goldberg situation. Let's do that here. So those are our three. Roman Reigns, Big E, Kevin Owens. Reigns happy. Big E pleased. Owens pleased. What a SummerSlam. Let's see if there's anything we need to address before we wrap up. Well, we've got a lot to get to. Our email is full. I will tell you that. I did a little glance before I started recording. The email's full, and there's a lot to get to here. But SummerSlam, excellent. We strike gold. That's what we like to do here on this show. And Randy Orton with the new catchphrase. People are just buzzing. Look at this. This is great. Randy Orton makes his return. This guy hasn't been on TV in months. He comes back, got a great new catchphrase, and everyone buzzing about it. It's going to sell a hell of a lot of t-shirts. That's what we want. Randy Orton is a merch pusher. He's going to be pushing merch now. And, I mean, we look at this new duo we've got. they're all going to be pushing the merch. We know. So what a great start to this this new era here. Let's go to our email. There's a lot happening. So a lot of these people are, shortlisted. We're not really concerned about most of this. When we look at some of this, Kenny Omega's gone from Impact. Okay, that doesn't concern us. Okay, Cedric's contract's ending, so we need to. Let's go ahead and just quickly do this here on Cedric. We're going to bring Cedric back. We're going to give him 2 years. Make an offer. He wants higher merchandise. Let's do this real quick. I know this has been a long episode, guys, but hopefully SummerSlam was worth it. This was our big show. So Cedric, we got a contract there. That's what I meant by the full email. Look at this with Paul Heyman. Look at this. All right, so we have seen this before in the save. Paul Heyman is manipulating everyone against AJ Styles. Like, this is the feud that will not stop other than Ricochet. So Dan Engler, our referee, is now tension with AJ Styles. Bray Wyatt has tension with AJ Styles. Oh, my goodness. This is not going to end well for someone. Not good to know that Bray Wyatt and AJ Styles have simmering tension. Not great here. Lance Storm. So even our Lance Storm, our road agent, like, we just... another referee. Apollo Crews and AJ Styles. Kevin Owens and AJ Styles. Oh, my goodness. Come on, Heyman. There's no way you were able to turn Kevin Owens and AJ Styles against each other. What did he do to do that? Oh, Paul Heyman. This is incredible. We got to figure out a way to figure this out. And then, Bruce Pritchard now has a strong dislike of AJ Styles. Well, that's something. Oh, my. Well, at least there's no Ricochet in there, but it looks like AJ Styles has now joined Ricochet in the most hated people in WWE club. Not great with that. Drug testing fees, a lot of drug testing. 3.7 million viewers for SummerSlam. We'll take that. Riddle is back, by the way, but as we'll talk about in the state of WWE, we still can't use him because he's still considered toxic. So there's not a whole lot we can do with that. So Riddle, still there. He's back. Good to know. We sent him on vacation, but he's still toxic due to the scandal. So, not great. We've got a couple things here. Looks like those are just going to be contract extensions for a couple people. I don't know if there's anything in there I don't want to give away, so I don't want to click on it. But I assume that's what's going on there with that. Whew. That was SummerSlam. What a wild event. And hopefully all that build, everything that I kind of teased heading into it, hopefully it was worth it. And I hope you guys enjoyed it because I had a lot of fun with that. That was, again, a lot of stuff that played out for a long time, had been in the works, and I'm glad it turned out as well as it did. 83 show, great stuff. The main event, the other stuff. Orton comes back and just is doing everything now with catchphrases. Like, everything's working out great here with that. So, thanks as always for watching. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Tell your friends, if they play TEW 2020, come on in to the WWE 2021 save. It's a lot of fun. And now, as you can see, we're setting a lot in motion here for the fallout from SummerSlam. A lot of big stuff we got to get to with this. The Rock is back. We've got everything going on with Edge and Orton. Chaos. Still a lot of chaos going on this save. So coming up on the next episode, it will be the State of WWE for September, and we will get to that in the next episode. As I mentioned, it may be a little longer, actually, as we look at some of the popularity boosts, hopefully for some of these guys, and we'll also take a look at just some other things we always do in the state of WWE that we always put together after each pay-per-view. So, again, like, share, all that, and coming up on the next episode, it will be the state of WWE. Be sure to leave me your feedback. I always love the feedback, love interacting with you guys. Let me know what you thought about SummerSlam. Hopefully, again, it was worth it. Hopefully it was worth the investment. And I think it's only going to get better from here because we've really already built out what we want to do heading into Survivor Series, but we got pay-per-views before that. And, we've already pretty much got our plans for much longer than that. So long-term stories, that's what we're trying to do here on the WWE 2021 Save. And on the next episode, it will be the State of WWE for September.